I forgot to mention one important thing about the mixer brush, so I thought I'd do that now since everyone's going to be watching these videos on the assignment. It will not remember your sampled image between documents when you've closed Photoshop and reopened it. Perhaps future versions will, but not necessarily now. Notice that we have the bowling ball brush selected and no bowling ball is in. And if you load the brush, nothing comes up because it simply doesn't exist anymore. So I wanted to give you a quick heads up on that one since it's kind of important. All right, so for assignment 5, brushing up on brushes, you're going to create a 7-layer PSD document that's going to be 7 inches wide, 3 inches high, and have a resolution of 300 pixels per inch. And let's just read through this real quick. For this assignment, you will demonstrate your understanding of brush creation by using techniques demonstrated in previous videos to create 6 brushes. I strongly recommend saving your brushes for future use through either the brush preset palette or the tools preset palette. And I think they're going to depreciate the tools preset palette at the rate it's going. So stick with the brush preset. I'm probably wrong. They probably won't remove it, but stick with the brush preset for this one. You will not turn in saved presets. Create a 7-inch wide, 3-inch high, 300 pixel per inch PSD file with 7 layers. Label the bottom layer background and fill it with white. Create 6 transparent layers and name them after each of the brushes that you will demonstrate. Select a brush that you've created, choose a corresponding layer, and then dab it on the left in order to show me what the dab looks like, and then make as many strokes as you need on the right to show off your creation. Make sure you do not cover your dab with your stroke, otherwise I won't see the dab. I think you didn't do it and I'll mark you off points. You're going to want to create a variety of brushes with little similarity between any of the two. So that means don't do what so many students have done in the past. Don't do 6 different capture brushes that have the same setting. And I've seen this a number of times, even though I always tell people not to do it. And their argument is, but look, it's a different image that I've captured. Sure, but it's the same brush settings every single time. So it's really the same brush. Watch out for that. And you can use Mixer Brush if you'd like. That's perfectly fine. But if you do that, it's the brush stroke that I'm looking at and the tip that I'm looking at. The color is great. However, I'm not going to be grading you on that. So don't use the same bristle brush as a mixer brush and then as a standard brush and claim that they're 2 different brushes. It's the same bristle brush. You're just using it as with a mixer brush instead of a standard brush. Don't do that either. Okay. We have some helpful tips. Let's look at those. You can only access the brush preset palette when you have the brush tool active. You can capture brushes by creating interesting grayscale shapes on a single layer with a transparent background, or on a white background in newer versions of Photoshop because the white will read as transparent when you capture it. And you can capture it by using the Edit Define Brush Preset option. You can track a stroke by going to the brush palette and turning on Shape Dynamics with an angle jitter set to 0 and set the direction drop down to direction. The control drop down to direction. Sorry about that. You can combine brushes using the brush palettes dual brush. These are great ways to do it. You can also use bright colors. That's fine. You're not required to, but you don't have to use grayscale either. I just need to be able to see it. There are 4 different types of brushes: capture, bristle, erodible, and airbrush. These can be accessed by clicking on the brush palette's brush tip shape column and clicking on the corresponding icon on the right. Have fun. All right, so that's actually a great way to make sure you don't have brushes with too much similarity. If you did like one of each of those types of brushes, then you're in the clear on 4 of them at least, and then you can do different things and do adjustments. Now, over the last several hours, we've created a bunch of different brushes and we have stored them. So let's take a look at a few that look different, and we'll start there. First thing first, we're going to go to File, New. We're going to create a brush demo. You'll want to name it correctly. I'm just going to name it Brush Demo. We'll make it 7 inches wide, 3 inches high, 300 pixels per inch. RGB color, 8-bit is fine. Hey, if we set the background to white, we'll have that first step done. We're going to use the standard working RGB sRGB IEC6 1966 2-2.1 and square pixels. Okay, all looks good. Let's go ahead and save this thing. Boom. And we've got a great background. Don't paint on this background. I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to unlock this thing by double clicking it. It does have to be named background though. And I'm going to lock it. Now I can't accidentally paint on it and there will be no sad tears for me doing it wrong. I'm going to make a new layer. Let's do our Batman. And we'll make this a projection Batman, shall we? Okay, we're not overwriting anything. Great. We'll do brush dynamics so that we can move things around. And we're going to increase the spacing so we've got Batman. Okay, let's give it a go. I don't seem to have a good color selected. Let's do Batman in yellow. That sound good? Oh, that's what's going on there. All right. Whoops. Batman. So that's our dab. So we're set on that. And there's our stroke. It's a Batman stroke. I don't think that that's a particularly interesting way of showing off what we've done. So I'm going to do Batman, 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 and I hopefully can clearly show the distortion of Batman, which I think shows it off better. And that's a heads up too. In some cases, you'll need to do a few dabs, but make sure you've got one dab by itself on the left. So we'll call this Batman projection. Okay, that's one down. Let's save. Boom. I'll save this over to desktop and I'll just call this brush demo, toss in the week 5 demo, and I'm done. Maximize backwards compatibility, that's fine too. We're set. On to the next one. And now we've got a new one. So I'm going to save this new Batman as projection Batman, so we have access to it later. Pop on back over to the brushes. Let's do a texture brush. Okay, so we've got this textured brush. I'm going to use the green color this time. Going to do dab. And this brush is kind of boring. So I'm going to come on over to brush settings and I'll do a little bit more with it. Let's do the size jitter a little bit. And we'll have a minimum diameter. We'll do some angle jitter. Maybe a little roundness jitter. And we'll flip it randomly. Texture's fine. And all right, I think that's more interesting already. Let's come on in here and adjust the spacing a little bit. Okay. I'm going to shrink that down. Okay, looks good. I've demonstrated a brush. I will call this textured jitter brush. Okay, that's 2. So far, so good. Save that one too. Great. Okay, I'm going to pop over to my brushes. And this time, let's do the nice chalk. And I will create a new layer. And I will tap it. And I might want to use more than one dab to kind of demonstrate what's going on. But I do want to have at least one dab in there kind of by itself. Now let's do some strokes to kind of show it off. And I think we might have it a little too hard, but it seems to be going okay. All right, there we have it. We have a nice chalk. So at this point, I'm going to double check it against my other brushes to make sure that they're not too similar. Looks pretty different to me. So far, so good. Save. Make a new one. I'm going to change the color. And I'm going to go to brushes. And let's see what else we've got in here. Didn't we have fun airbrush? Cool, let's do a fun airbrush. Tap, tap, I say. All right. And there we have it. And notice that I've got this window in the way, so I'm leaving a lot of blank space over there. And I'm going to actually clear this out real quick with a couple undos because I remember it has pressure sensitivity. I'd like to show that off. Okay, there we go. Fun air brush. Okay, we got a fun airbrush. Let's see. Next up, let's do the fan brush. Now the fan brush, again, since we don't have the bowling ball, whoops, it won't paint anything by default. It looked like it was trying to, which is interesting. Oh, look at that. It did save it. Now, my understanding is previous versions do not save it. So this is an exciting moment for me. Let's see if we can capture that. No. It still hasn't really saved it. It's gone. So, oh well. It would have been nice if it had. And in fact, just laid down white paint. Although sample all layers was on. Let's go ahead and do a delete and not sample all layers. Nope. I was so hopeful for a moment. No, maybe someday it would make sense to me, you know, to stash this away, but probably concerned about file size or something. So we'll use the quick fan brush without the bowling balls. And we should now have, actually, let me get out a mixer brush. We'll do the standard brush here. And there we go. Load it in. And now we have this nice fan brush. Okay, so let's clear that out. And I'll name this while I'm thinking of it. Okay. Plop. There we have a dab. And I think that's unlike any of the other ones. Go ahead and save. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One left. Let's go ahead and make a new layer. And what should we do? We don't have a flat out capture brush, do we? Well, I mean, the textured jitter brush is essentially a capture brush, as is Batman. But we do have the angle jitter snail, which is okay. I don't think we're doing anything quite like that, but I don't think it's different enough. So let's do a couple of more changes to it just to make it stand out. I'm going to come over to the color dynamics, and we're going to apply some crazy color dynamics to our snail. Here we go. Now that's a little more interesting. Let's do a little bit more. Under the brush tips shape, we'll add the spacing in a little bit. And we can see that it follows the strokes, so that will be good. And let's go ahead and do a little bit of scattering. All right, I'm happy with that. Let's do that one. So I'm going to tap once, but I want it bigger. So we've got the snail. Let me tap again. There we go. I think that's a good snail. And I shrink it down now. It doesn't have to be the same size on all of them. And I'm going to move this out of the way. So I got a little more space. I'm going to increase the size here just so that I can show off the snail. All right. And maybe one more small one. Okay, there we go. We've got our snail. And let's go ahead and name that. Let's save this to Colorful Snail of Science. Okay, so we've got a Colorful Snail of Science. This will be our oops. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with the background layer. That's 7. Save it. Don't forget to name it correctly and upload that bad boy, and you're good to go. One heads up. Let's make sure that it's the right size. It's indicating that it's massive, and I don't believe that for 1 second. We should have brush demo. Sure enough, the brush. Oh, that's brush test. We should have brush demo, which perhaps I lost. That one's from like years ago. One moment, please, while I locate. Okay, brush demo is in the wrong folder, which is in fact only 4 megabytes, which is more what I was expecting. So we're set. Make sure that you name it according to the online naming convention, and then you are ready to roll. Congratulations on completing all these videos. I look forward to looking at all of your assignments and grading them. I will see you next week for even more Photoshop fun. See you soon.